The biggest mistake I made in my business was not hiring a professional to help me with my money. Not just my taxes, but the actual plan I had for my business. I was completely lost on how to handle taxes, what to do with profit, and how to maintain my income. I had to find a better way. That's when I found Core Financial. Core Financial is a team of tax professionals that actually care about building real relationships with their clients. They run my books, keep me up to date with my finances, and make sure I'm taking full advantage of all of my tax benefits. Are you struggling with your finances? Look no further. Core Financial is a brand that is nationwide that can help you with your business. Both Nick and I are huge fans of Core, and they can help you too. Check out howtofilmweddings.com/core to schedule a consultation today. Core Financial, real relationships, no surprises.
Well, hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller and I am joined with my best good buddy, Mr. John Bunn, across the screen from me. John, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. We have a treat for our listeners this week, and we have a treat for our Facebook group. We are actually live inside of our Facebook group at this moment, recording a live Q&A with our new best good buddy, Sam Jacobson. He's going to be on in just a second. We had him on 2 weeks ago. The crowd went wild. We heard you. You wanted him back, so we thought we would bring Sam on for a live Q&A inside of our Facebook group. If you're not part of the Facebook group, what the heck is wrong with you? First of all. Secondly, I'm really, really amped about this conversation we're going to have today with our good friend, the sales expert guru, Sam Jacobson.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and bring him on. Let's just get started here. What do you say?
I love it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Here we are, Sam. Welcome back to the How to Film Weddings podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's good to be here again, guys. It feels like I never left.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah. So what we're doing today is, yes, we are recording this live. If you're listening to this on podcast on today is a Monday, it's the day that we launched those. This has been recorded ahead of time. So that is what we are doing today. So any of you in the Facebook group right now, if you have any questions for Sam about sales and booking and any sort of that kind of stuff, be sure to drop them in the chat and he will answer them. He is so good at answering questions with his nice, deep voice.
You know, guys, it's getting deeper.
Go ahead.
It's getting deeper the more that I talk. And I've been on Clubhouse and doing these free workshops over the last few weeks so much that my voice has actually gone from baritone to baritone.
He's almost a bass. I can feel it. He's almost there. No, I will say this. We got off of our recording last week with you, or 2 weeks ago, I guess now. And the next day I had a consultation with a bride that I used the strategies you were talking about, and I got myself a really great booking. So thank you so much for that, Sam. That was awesome. We appreciate that. And I know that a lot of people have been like in our mastermind group, just like, that was so good, so much good information. And we just wanted to go even deeper when it comes to the sales process. Real quick, for those of you or for those out there that didn't hear the episode, why don't you give us a little background on why you're in this seat today, what you do, and how you can help the wedding film community?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that opportunity. You know, I didn't get into the wedding business because I wanted to be a salesperson. I can assure you of that. I got in by accident. I was a restaurant manager. I'd been in restaurants for 10 years, and I was managing a restaurant in a resort in Washington State. And one day the GM comes over and says, "Hey, Sam, guess what? You're the new weddings guy." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he says, "Well, the person who was there before, the event manager, left because she had to go take care of a sick family member, and we need you to jump over and handle things." So 3 hours later, I was running a ceremony rehearsal, and I was off to the races. And over the first couple of years of working in that position, I thought, I'm going to be able to rely on my natural abilities, my charisma. I think I got jokes, so I tried to infuse some humor. I had more hair then, so I thought maybe my good looks and my, all these things were going to come together and make it easy for me to sell. but that's not how it went. And then the Great Recession hit. And so here we are in 2008, 2009, and I actually had to figure out how I was going to get good at sales. And so I did what every good student does, go to school. And I went to the School of Behavioral Economics and Cognitive Science and read everything that I could find about how to convince people to buy whatever it was that I was selling. And really it was, as I found, about making it easier for people by removing the obstacles and creating this path of least resistance. And so I was able to go through my own inquiries that I was getting and learn how to remove those obstacles that were getting in the way. And over 5 years and a 400% increase in sales, we were able to really create a very smooth path. And so I took that approach and went to a different company, Todd Events out of Texas. And I was working there as a director of operations, right hand for Todd Fiscus. And we were working in luxury in one of the biggest markets in the country. And I was, I found after a couple of years, it's really no different. And so I thought, how can I help more than one person at a time? How can I have more than one boss at a time? So I got into consulting and coaching. And for the last 4+ years, I've been working one-on-one with coaching clients, doing online courses, speaking across the country, leading workshops, and recently over the last year and a half through conversion copywriting, which our company does for websites and sales proposals. My wife leads up a team of 4 to 6 people, depending on what time of the year. And we do everything we can to help wedding professionals book more couples.
I
love it.
Yeah, it's incredible. And just the last time you were on the wealth of knowledge that you dropped, and just so like we had so many conversations a couple weeks ago where people were like, I didn't even think about that. And it was so, I can't wait to implement this stuff and that sort of thing. And so we wanted to, just kind of continue that conversation and maybe go a little bit deeper. I know we talked a lot about, kind of the pricing side of things, but there's so much more to, your whole process. And I know like the whole, like the proposal and getting that right and all that kind of stuff. So we wanted to give you some time today just to kind of talk about maybe that side of stuff. I loved your analogy where last time, you were like, well, whenever you go on a diet, if you don't lose weight, you don't blame the scale for you not losing weight. But typically whenever we're not getting bookings, we blame our pricing sheet when it's so much more than that. So why don't you talk about, the proposal side of things and see what comes of that?
Yeah, no, that's great. So just a quick overview for anybody who's tuning in the first time, or a great refresher for people who've heard this before. For me, the ideal sales process is built around how people make decisions. And we want to keep them in that fast thinking system of their brain. There are 2 different ways of thinking about things, making decisions. One is the fast thinking, one is the slow thinking. The fast thinking is kind of like autopilot. It's the emotional side of the brain. We don't really spend a lot of time going through and thinking about something. We just do what feels natural. And this is 98% of all of our decisions are made in this way of decision making. The slow thinking system 2, is the deliberate, rational, logical side of things. And so what we want to do is we want to keep people out of that if we want to make it easier for them to buy, because that tends to slow things down. So when we're creating and designing the sales process, what we want to do is we want to move them from the website into our inbox. And then rather than hit them over the head with a bunch of numbers and a ton of information slaps them out of that fast thinking autopilot. And instead, what we want to do is we want to just move them right over to the phone and have a phone call. And that phone call is going to be the best way for us to continue to move that deal forward. Eventually, at the end of the phone call, we're going to want to set up a second phone call. And this is key. This is like one of the big takeaways from this conversation, or any conversation that I have where I mention it, because this is like the number one thing you can do to boost your conversion rate, is set up that second phone call before you get off the first. And then when you get off that first phone call, you send out an email recap, and then you send out a sales proposal. And that sales proposal is something that has to be more than just your pricing sheet. I was talking with a friend of mine who's in the wedding industry, and she said that Julie Novak is her name. She's the CEO and co-founder of Party Slate. She said that proposing your prices without context in a sales proposal is the equivalent of taking an engagement ring and just throwing it at the girl that you hope is going to be your fiance and not saying anything. And so if you're one of those guys out there who's just throwing a pricing guide or a pricing sheet at somebody without providing context in a full sales proposal, it's not giving everything you can to convince the couple that you're the right one for them. So that sales proposal is super important, and then you get a chance to review it on that second phone call. So that's just a little bit of the context there, and then I can go through and talk a little bit about the sales proposal as well. Any questions on that come up, or anything you think would be helpful to dive into more, boys?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people that we've talked to and that we do mentor sessions with, they will show us a pricing page, and then they will also show us what they send to the couples. And it's usually like a lot of people use the sales brochure in Honeybook, where it's just like, here's all the things I offer. There's 1,000 things you can buy. You can build your own package. There's also people that just put all their prices for people to see, that whole side of the conversation versus just, but I think a lot of people don't think about that experience, that they're like helping them get the context behind the pricing and why, and maybe some tips or tricks to get people to see that value, and tips or tricks to get them to say yes. That's where I think a lot of our listeners are just like, yeah, give me the scoop on what you think on those things.
Yeah, that's great. I was on a Clubhouse room yesterday with KT Mary, excellent photographer, and we were talking about competitive advantages and how the sales process itself can become the competitive advantage between you and other people who they're looking at. And one of the analogies that I brought up about having prices or just responding to requests for pricing and availability is, it's like going out to a restaurant. Like I said, I worked in restaurants for a dozen years, and I was a waiter for many of them. And there are two different ways of waiting tables. You can put the menu down, or have the host put the menu down, and then you can walk up a little bit 10 or 15 minutes later and be like, hi, my name's Sam, thanks so much for joining us. I see you've got the menus, what would you like to order? And that's one way to do it. I can assure you, after a decade of being in restaurants, that's not going to get you the biggest tip. Instead, you want to go in and you want to get to know them a little bit. You want to ask them some questions about what they're hoping for as far as the experience goes, if they're celebrating something. And then you want to get a little bit of, needs, the dietary restrictions, favorite items, if they've been here before, that kind of thing, right? So you're collecting this information as a way to be able to make recommendations. Now, ultimately, if you've ever been out to a restaurant and you had a great server, the one who goes through and is like, hey, before you guys make a decision, can I just point out a couple of highlights on this menu that I really love and I think you're going to love too? And then they direct your attention to, X, Y, or Z. Something like 50% of those orders that come in are going to be based on those recommendations. Why? Because it makes it easy for people to go, yes, I'm going to do that. It's the power of suggestion. We're making it easy for people to follow our lead. And so as you're going through and thinking about the kind of recommendations you're making for your potential clients, these couples who are inquiring, we don't want to just leave the menu at the table and have them be able to order something on their own. If we're going to provide a high level of service and we're going to get more value in the process, and we're going to get them to pay higher rates, we have to provide a value add more than the thing that they're buying from us. And so just to kind of wrap up this metaphor, imagine that you go out to a restaurant at the airport. And I don't know if you've traveled recently in the last couple of years before the pandemic, but these new things where people you go to a restaurant and there's like a computer on the table and you are actually ordering your own food, and then somebody from the back comes out, drops it off, and then never visits the table again. And that's, I think, the equivalent of the method that you just described, where people get a menu of options. They then are responsible for filling it out or telling you what they want from it. And then you just complete the order on the wedding day. That's like going to eat at Chili's at the airport.
Mm-hmm. Really good.
Sorry. Nick's like, I can't hold it in.
No, that just made me laugh. I mean, Chili's is fine, but I don't want to be at Chili's.
No, you don't. That's the thing. Nobody does. And you can't charge a lot. You can't, if you're not providing a lot of value, then you can't collect a lot of payments. And that's really the thing that we should all be working towards, is not working more, but just getting more for the work that we're already doing.
So I know you wanted to maybe end the metaphor, but I like the metaphor of this restaurant, not necessarily Chili's, which is fine. But the nice restaurants, my wife and I love going, fine dining, nice places, love to be taken, care of. And I'm wondering psychologically, I mean, you've actually been in the restaurant industry, but like I am willing to spend way more when the waiter or waitress is very knowledgeable and offers things based on that data that I give them. If I say, I love a good steak, what do you recommend? And if they're like, oh, well, our fish is this. And it's like, no, I don't want fish. I kind of want steak. Like, give me your best. I don't care about the price. I just want the best based on these things that I like. As wedding video professionals, I think that we don't know how to serve up the menu based on the data. We don't know how to suggest things based on the data. And we don't know psychologically what triggers people to spend more, or we don't know how to use that data to help us get them to spend more. Are there any anchoring techniques or anything like that that you are suggesting with proposals and things like that for us to learn from?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is really kind of it's a 1-2 process. So the first process the first part of the process is to go through and do the discovery call well. You want to ask the right questions during the discovery call to get them to tell you things that you then are fulfilling. So if you want to get somebody who's, getting married to want more stuff, you got to develop more needs. And that's where you do that, is in that discovery call. So you could ask them things like, what are you most excited for when it comes to your wedding? What, 10 years from now, when you're looking back on your wedding video, your wedding film, what is it that you want to remember? What are the moments that you want to relive? You could ask them when they've been to previous weddings, what are the things that really stood out? Or if they've ever seen a wedding video, what are the moments that they tear up at or that they laugh at? Those kinds of things are going to give you the highlights of what it is that they want. And the more that you can create that desire, that want in them, the more they're going to ask from you. And so on the discovery calls, when we're building that need, we're building those desires so that ultimately in the proposal, then the second part of this, you can then just follow through and say, hey guys, this is what you said that you needed. And I've translated that into the services that you can pick from. I've given you a few options here. I bundled them together based on what I think is going to work best. And you can pick which goes best or which works best for you. And so in that sales proposal, then what we're really doing is we're reflecting back to them what it is that they've already shared with you. That's really important to do in the very beginning, right before you present the different collections that you're offering. So you want to start off with a recap and restate their priorities for them, and then restate some of the concerns or challenges that they've had in getting those priorities met. And then you want to bring in the perfect solutions. And this is really a copywriting technique that is called problem, agitate, solve. And when you do this, you are reminding them of the need, of the desire that they have, and what happens if they don't get that met. And then you're swooping in with, hey, but good news, guys, I'm here and I've got the solutions for you. So that's a really solid way to present your packages, your pricing. Another key component after you have presented them as the perfect solution, you want to make sure that you describe what it is that they're getting. Now, people who are, in the film industry, you all know what it is that, a 2 to 3 minute highlight reel looks like, or what it means to get, X amount number of toasts, or to have a same day edit, or, whatever it may be that you're including in your features. Could be, raw footage, whatever it is. But this is really, really important to do in the proposal, is you've got to list out the benefits of the features that you're offering. So, when something like a same day edit is, for instance, announced, you want to talk about how you'll be able to play back a 2 to 3 minute clip that's going to run at the reception. Or if the toasts are being recorded, you want to make sure that you're letting them know, how great it's going to be to hear mic'd up audio and have that overlay on top of the footage that they're getting. If it's a 3 to 5 minute video that you're offering, then you're going to talk about how it's the highlights of the day, and it's going to tell the story in a way that everybody will be able to pay attention to, say, on social media. Whereas if it's a 15 to 20 minute video that you're selling them on one of your higher level packages, it'll be something that just the two of them can really celebrate on anniversaries and look back on and form more memories to cherish. Or whatever it may be, but I'm just making stuff up here. But when you go through and you're pitching your services, you can't just list out the features. While those are important, you've got to really connect them with the benefits that they're going to get if you want the message to really land.
I think that's a really good message. Again, we often come back to this idea that our work will sell itself. Like I don't need to share all this information about why my films will move you or what, like, just watch it, right? Like just watch it. And I think that's the thing that so many people that I've talked to that are great at sales and are great at this side of stuff. And there's like, I mean, the common person, the difference between maybe my work and someone who's in year 2, like could be very negligible, right? They might not be able to tell, but it's those things. Okay, I've been in business for 8 years, and so these are the things that I do, and all of that stuff that matters. This kind of stuff that you're talking about is what we need to be focusing on, instead of just like, well, here's my pricing sheet. Watch my video. If you can't see the value, then that's on you. That's not on me. Whenever it might be a client that actually genuinely wants to book your services and would love to work with you, but just because you didn't present it in the correct way, we might have let them go. So, you've kind of talked about this process. So what are some things that you're thinking about the actual, the proposal? You said, kind of highlighting those things. So is this like a, like a PDF that we're sending them that has it outlined? Is this, more of a video? Is this, what's the next step, in sending this proposal? How do you format it, I guess?
Yeah. So, the format's really important. We definitely want to make sure that we're staying away from PDFs. I mean, especially because right now we're talking, like, I'm in a group that's all about video, right? You got to be multimedia. And so we need a format that can really push that to the forefront. And so PDFs in general are not great ways to share information for a phone friendly environment. It's like, imagine having a website that's not mobile responsive. It's going to kill business. And that's exactly what a PDF is like. So we want to make sure that we're staying away from PDFs when we're sending out our services and our pricing. It also makes it more challenging for us to edit it and really create a tailored proposal, which is something that we absolutely want to do. So, I definitely recommend going at the, an unpublished web page that you can duplicate and create a unique URL. That's going to be the best way to do this. There are CRMs like, say, Honeybook or Dubsado or Tave or any other number. I'm sure there are some video specific ones for cinematographers, filmmakers. But I think one of the challenges we run into with CRMs is that when you're a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. And that's, I think, one of the challenges with the proposal. Like Honeybook, for instance, it looks just like a PDF. There are other ones that oftentimes have things that you can't undo in the default settings, like not send your contract with it, which we don't want to send a contract when we're sending out our proposal for services, or attaching an invoice with a deposit request when they haven't even committed yet to working with us. So the unpublished web page is a really great way to do it. It's in your brand. It's usually easy with a Show It or Squarespace or WordPress, whatever it is that you use to go through and manage that content. 80% of it's going to be the same from one couple to the next. And so it's also got analytics in it. So you can see when they're looking at it. You can install Hotjar or some other app where you can go through and look at them view your proposal, and you can actually see what they're looking at and watch those screen records to learn how people are interacting with it. So I'm definitely staying away from PDFs. CRMs are maybe a next step up, but the unpublished web page is really going to be pretty golden, especially for videographers, because you can leave a little space for you to put video in there. And I would absolutely recommend putting not just video of the films that you've done, but also video of yourself. I was just on with Lindsay Conklin, who I know we're all mutual fans of, with LaRev Films, and he and I were talking this morning on Clubhouse about how to use video during the sales process, and working it into the sales proposal. Super, super compelling. It'll immediately set you apart from most other people because almost nobody's doing this, and I think it also highlights what it is that you as filmmakers are doing, which is communicating and telling stories through motion rather than through words and images.
Would you, I love the idea about, the web page, and then you can just, duplicate it and, make little tweaks in it. But I mean, the bones of it's there, right? You're leaving most of the same information. You may be just changing numbers, here and there a little bit. For the video, do you recommend, as a part of the sales thing, something that's like, okay, here's information about us, it's me and my wife, we're just talking and it's the same thing for everyone? Or are you, me, grab my camera really quick or just on my phone, something like that, and just record hey, Jessica, it was so great to talk with you and Steve, and, we're really excited about your wedding. Here's a custom, so customizing that message. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, super easy. Hey, Sarah, Steve, so great to talk to you the other day on the phone. You guys have so many cool things happening for your wedding. I've got so many great ideas. I love that venue. I've been there a dozen times, and I know that there's a really cool story to tell with you in that backdrop. And if I'm lucky enough to be the one who does it, I'm gonna create something that you're gonna look back on for years to come and cherish, or whatever it may be. I mean, something. You got to figure out what ultimately what it is that's going to trigger them in a good way. But that's essentially what you're doing. And that little 30 to 45 second intro then is going to make it feel personal. And that's really what you're looking for, is something that's not generic. I mean, if everybody else is going in and ordering off of a menu that's on the table from the computer, you're really going to stand out as the person who's, doing things not only different, but better. I'll leave you with this as far as how important personalization goes, and also repeating back to them what their priorities are. There's this really famous study that was done. I mean, famous in the behavioral economics world, but famous enough where they did an evaluation of what the best way for a server was to get a bigger tip. And what they found out at restaurants is if the server repeated the order back to the guest, that there was on average something like a 70% increase in tip. And so just simply repeating the order back by using their same words really lights up mirror neurons. It gets the neurochemicals going in positive ways and allows us to get rewarded by being paid more because we've created more value in the mind of the buyer.
Man, I really like that. Just the whole repeating it back to them, and this is what I heard you say. Is this right? And you kind of, as you're should be taking notes whenever you're on your initial consultation or discovery call or whatever, so that you can refer back to that stuff and make sure to include all of those things, because you're like, you said that this was important. Like, yeah, I did say that was important, and that's really good stuff. So, man, this is such really good info, John. Looks like you have something you want to say there. Do you?
You
not?
Go for it. No, okay. Hit that break.
I will do that. So for the live people, we're not going to go anywhere. But for the podcast that gets released on Monday, we are going to go into a quick break. So that is this break time right now. What would you take on if you had an extra set of hands? What would you do with your free time if you didn't have to edit? So many of us get bogged down in the post-production hustle that we never seem time to focus on our business. John and I both felt that way until we found Wedditor. Wedditor is a post-production team of top wedding film editors and project managers that give your films and brand the extra eyes, ears, and hands that they need. Not only is Wedditor delivering films we love to our couples faster, but we can invest ourselves fully in other areas of our business knowing that Wedditor has our back. Be the first to know how your second shooters are doing, how those new LUTs work with your footage, and relax knowing your couples are getting the full attention they deserve on every single project. So what could you do with an extra hand? Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor, whether you're ready to start now or preparing for next season. Be sure to use promo code HTFW for $50 off your first project. If you're interested in this service, make sure you head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor soon. Fall 2020 spots are lined up and filling up fast. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing.
Finding the perfect song for your wedding film can be so frustrating. We spend countless hours searching for the perfect song. When it comes to licensing music, Nick and I both love Musicbed. Not only do they have the best music, but their website makes it so easy to find the perfect song and to find it fast. We have both been using the Musicbed's wedding subscription for years and cannot recommend it enough. Not only are they adding new music from incredible musicians like Chapters, The Light, The Heat, and Tony Anderson all the time, they've made it incredibly easy to search their library for mood, genre, instrumentation, and even key. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed and use promo code HTFW for a free month of a Musicbed wedding subscription. howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed.
Man, that was
You
bad.
killed it. You
I
nailed
killed
it.
it. That was great.
You literally
Okay.
killed
That
it.
was awesome, Nick.
Yeah,
Boom.
really killed it. So, hey everyone, we are back from break now. Man,
That was a
doing
great
this
break.
all live, whew,
Refreshed.
whew. Yeah. We are back from break with Sam Jacobson, answering all questions, that have to do with sales and the process and the proposals and everything there. So Sam, we're going to go ahead and jump into our Wedditor question of the day. Wedditor, more than outsourcing, more than freelance. I think I got those backwards, but it's the idea. Man, they've only been our sponsor for like 2 years and I can't even get their tagline right now. I'm nervous. This got me all mixed up. So what do you have to say to someone that your process is, they inquire, we have a discovery call, then I do this proposal, and then we do another phone call. What if they're just like, that feels too much to me, or that feels like I'm putting a big burden on my bride, because if she's reaching out to me, statistically, she's reaching out to 3 to 5 other videographers, and then you do that with photographers and florists and, all that. So how do you respond to someone who just has like that? I don't want to overwhelm my clients when they're trying to book me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Couple things. Number one, that's oftentimes us projecting out on our clients what it is that we don't want to do or what we're nervous about doing. So I hear a lot about like, oh, my clients don't want to get on the phone, which really is a cover up for I get pretty nervous being on the phone. Or, I don't want to go through this process because I just don't want to spend my time doing that. I'd rather, edit footage or, rework my gear or whatever it may be. So I think first look down deep into yourself and recognize, is this something that I'm feeling, or is this something that the couples that I'm working with are feeling? What's really interesting is that I felt like this might be an issue. And so I brought it up with our online membership community. And on one of our group coaching calls, we talked about it because I sell to people who know my process. And so every day I'm on the phone with people who are inquiring after hearing me talk or reading a blog post or, having taken an online course, and they want to do some one-on-one with me. And they know my process. They know that I'm going to get on this first phone call and ask them for a second phone call. And it's really weird for them because they tell me this, and I ask them if they would like to get on a second phone call, or if they would just like to see the proposal. And 9 times out of 10, for people who know exactly what I'm doing, they go along with it and say, yes, can we please do a second phone call? And the reason is because by the time we've got to that point in the sales process, their buying experience, but not just for me, but for your couples, they are so happy that they have finally found somebody who gets them, who understands them, who has some solutions that they're beginning to trust, that they feel like they're really going to deliver what it is that I have been looking for so long. And that second phone call really represents a light at the end of the tunnel, so they they can finally check this off of the list. They can finally say, you know what, I found my guy. I know who I'm getting my wedding video from. Finally, I can just move on to something else that I'm more interested in or more excited in, or I could go and day drink with my friends at brunch and not have to feel guilty for not planning my wedding or whatever it is. And so, yes, it is a little bit more work, but here's the thing is if you really find yourself trying to justify this, just remember how long people take to look for the thing that they really want and need. And yes, they may be spending a little bit more time with you. The second phone call is usually 10, 15 minutes. And so, yes, they may be spending a little bit more time, but overall, by doing it this way, you're going to help them push through the status quo bias that they're running into, this risk that they're feeling, the loss that they're trying to avert by not making a decision. And ultimately, you're going to save them more time than they're spending with you on that second phone call.
So in that situation, it's truly it's not you, it's me. Like, we don't want to do that just because I don't like how it makes me feel, and I'm just pushing that on the couples. So I like that. John,
I think there's some of that.
Yeah, I can see that. And I talked to a lot of people about like their pricing and sharing it early or not. And I know some of our good friends that whenever she was getting married, she was like, nobody would give me pricing. No one would give me, like, they'd maybe give me starting pricing, but I just wanted to get straight to it. My question, I guess, on the heels of that, I think most people don't necessarily fall in that category, but to the people that are reaching out to me, and I can tell like they just want to get to the cost. They need that, and they don't want to be sold to necessarily. Are they someone that we should just say, here's a ballpark of what we charge, let's get on the call? Like, that's what's worked for me, instead of just here's my pricing sheet. I usually, if somebody is really pushing, I'll just be like, I average between $6,000 and $8,000 starting out, depending, and I can build you something custom. If we can get on a call, I can know a little bit more, but that's kind of your ballpark. So like, I'm serving them still, but I don't want them to feel like, oh, I have to get on this call just to know if I can even afford something with them, or like their starting price is this, but what is that? What do you have to say to somebody that's on that side of things?
Yeah, there's a bunch of good things in there. I'm going to see if I can address a handful of them, because
I know I asked a lot.
No, you're good. You're good. No, it's just great. I'm like you said one sentence, and I'm like, oh, good. There's like 3 or 4 things in there we can talk about. So yes, the short answer is that when we get people who are inquiring, obviously we want to try and guide them down this path. We do want them to know our starting at price, because they should know. It's like seeing the dollar signs on the listing, or the guide for the menus. We want to know, is it $1, $2, $3, or $4 signs? If it's a 4 and we've got a budget for a 2, we're not going to even look at the menu. So I do think that that's important. We do want to get them on the phone, because you don't want to sell them something that they don't need, or quote them a price that is going to be under what it is that they actually want. So if you frame it to them that way, oftentimes that's enough to get them on the phone. I think the other thing in there is to remember, and that you said this in passing, is like, when I buy it, this is how I want to get the information. And that's important to pay attention to. And we talked a little bit about this on the podcast that I was on a couple of weeks ago. The difference between the golden rule and the platinum rule: the golden rule is treat everybody how you want to be treated, and the platinum rule is to treat other people how they want to be treated. And so, we learn this golden rule when we're like 5 years old and in kindergarten, because we don't really have the ability to empathize with other human beings very well. And so our teachers and parents say, well, hey, Johnny, don't hit Timmy over the head with the shovel in the sandbox, because you wouldn't like it if he did it to you, right? And that's how kids understand that. And so, we come up with the golden rule. But the platinum rule is really something that we want to use if we have empathy, which we should all have a pretty good amount of. And that is to treat other people how they want to be treated. And so one of the things that I find specifically with filmmakers is that filmmakers are typically information oriented. There's a lot of time that's spent editing. There's a lot of expertise and know-how that goes into creating a beautiful wedding film. And so because of that, y'all are information junkies. You love to consume information, and therefore you love getting it. Again, we typically sell the way that we like to be sold to. So If we're operating by the golden rule, which is to sell to other people how we like to be sold to, then you probably think, oh, if I give them a bunch of information, they're going to be all dialed in and be able to get all of the stuff that they need to make a logical, rational choice based on the info and data that I've sent them. But that's not how most people make decisions. Most people, and especially people who are getting married, are making decisions with a different part of their brain, and we want them to stay in that part of the brain, not the logical, rational, deliberate, slow thinking part of the brain, but the autopilot, emotional, fast thinking part of the brain. And so we want to make sure that, again, we're not projecting onto other people what it is that we want or our own personal experiences. We want to stretch to their way of communicating and make sure that we're sharing information in the way that's going to work best for them. Now, as guides who have done this hundreds of times, we know what the best way is to get somebody the fastest answer. And sometimes the fast is slow and slow is smooth. And that's really what we're selling here when we bring people through this process, is that we're letting them know, hey, it may seem like it's a little bit more time by jumping on a phone call or 2 phone calls eventually, but we're going to spend a total of 45 minutes on the phone. I'm going to save you 4 to 5 hours emailing back and forth or scrolling through Instagram trying to find somebody who you like.
It's really good. It's really good. A question that Jeremy in our group asked. He said, first off, this stuff is gold. So good job on that.
Good.
And then the next thing he says, what suggestions do you have for overcoming objections in the sales process? So, my mind goes to, you hop on a phone call, you say, my starting price is $5,000. So they have that frame of reference, but they just keep on trying to hijack the conversation or what. So how do you deal with that? What do you suggest for that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So my wife and business partner, Katie Taylor Jacobson, she actually has 3 times as much direct sales experience with wedding couples as I do. And she and I, we talk shop a lot around the house. It makes for interesting pillow talk on, Saturday mornings. And we often talk about how people get fixated on price as the objection. And really price is not the objection, because price is again, just that byproduct of the value and reassurance that you have or have not built. And so if something is too high, it's typically because the value and the reassurance is not equally as high. And so what we want to do when we're thinking about objections is really go through and try to understand what it is that people are objecting to. So, and this is a complex process. I'll see if I can simplify it as much as I can. We just wrapped recordings on our new online course that's coming out on Tuesday. And in there, we spent 5 lessons on this particular topic because it's that important. Most of the sections in the course only got 2 or 3 lessons. This one got 5. And that's because negotiations are all about preparation. So objections, it's not about overcoming objections so much as it is preventing objections from occurring in the first place. So number one, we want to make sure that we know exactly what it is that people are objecting to. And that's best done with market research on your current clients. I would not necessarily ask clients who said no why they said no. There's something that's called a post-rationalization, where we go through and rationalize after the fact with our logical part of our brain why we emotionally made a decision. And oftentimes the two are not the same. So we may have done something, and then later when somebody asks us, we make something up that sounds reasonable because we don't really know why we did it in the first place. So we don't necessarily want to stay away, or we want to stay away from the people who have said no to us. We instead want to focus on the people who have said yes to us because they know us and they trust us and they like us. And so we can ask them questions and really dig into it a little bit more. So this is a really great opportunity right after you book somebody for you to set out a questionnaire. And in that questionnaire, one of the things that we want to ask them, we want to ask them about a dozen questions. And in there, there's a few of them that are important. Number one, what were your biggest concerns when you were looking for a videographer? Number two, what kind of challenges did you find when you were looking for the right videographer? And then this one is gold. This is where you find your biggest objection. Right before you said yes, what was the one thing that was holding you back and saying no? And when you ask them this question, they'll tell you what the biggest hesitancy was. And that biggest hesitancy was really the objection that you almost had to deal with. And if you do this 5, 10, 15, 50 times, you're going to start to cluster responses into common concerns and objections that you'll have to prevent in the future. And so ultimately what you'll do is you'll start to identify the biggest concerns that people have, and then you start dropping in the ways that you overcome those concerns in your social media, in your referral strategy, so other people are sharing that with other people, with the potential clients. You're talking about it on your website. You're just low key dropping it into discovery calls when you're on with them. You have stories that are built up about clients who have overcome that concern or fear that is present in so many people, and so those stories will then provide comfort and transformation rather than just information, so that it's something that means something and sticks with them. And so you're just going to keep dropping these messages that help to prevent these problems from happening in the first place, so that you don't have to worry about them ghosting you or directly objecting to certain components of the the services or the pricing or whatever it may be that they're objecting to.
Oh, so good. For those of you just joining live with us, we are live inside of our Facebook group. We've got some more questions coming in, so that's where we're grabbing these. If you're listening on the podcast, it's not live anymore, so sorry. But Blake, our editor, is on the live. He asks, what part of the process do you feel like most wedding filmmakers are failing at?
Wow. I think Nick, you touched on it earlier, that y'all think that it's about the film, and it's not. It's not about the product. There's this thing that you see at conferences and workshops and in educational material and on websites, and people talk about it all the time, which is Maya Angelou's famous quote of, it's not what you did or said, it's how you made people feel. And that's what you're doing. You are selling a feeling, an emotion. So I'm in this behavioral economics program at Texas A&M University. The Human Behavior Lab offers a certification in applied behavioral economics, and it's this marriage of business and psychology and economics. And it's a year-long program. And one of the courses that I'm taking right now, it's called Mind State Marketing. Professor's Will Leach. He's great. He's got really good stuff. Check him out. And in there, we're talking about a couple weeks ago, the difference between functional goals and higher order goals. And so when we're dealing with people or, responding to people who are inquiring and asking us for something like a wedding film, that's a functional goal. I would like to have a wedding film so that I can remember my wedding day or whatever it may be, but some sort of functional goal. Now, really what we as marketers and salespeople need to recognize is there's always going to be a higher order goal that is driving that functional goal. And so what we want to do is we want to excavate, we want to dig down deep, and we want to identify what it is that's really truly driving that purchase. And so, if it's something that is about, the wedding, that they want to remember, we want to identify what that is. When we identify what that is, that's when we're going to go through and start to talk about how our film is going to provide that kind of experience for them time and time and time again. So if we can identify what the real higher order goals are rather than just a functional goal, if we can identify what the emotional triggers are and start talking to those rather than talking about the features of our film, then we're going to strike a nerve in a good way and hook our best buyers. So if you're a filmmaker, drop the technical features that you are focused on, how many minutes, what kind of gear you have, how long you spend editing, how many photographers or videographers you have. Like, none of that matters. Like, that's all the ingredients in the sausage. They don't care about that. What they want to know is how it tastes. It's not the steak, it's the sizzle, right? Talk about the sizzle.
Yeah. Which that's a great response. And I love that. And that kind of leads into Vin's question. When you're on a call, should we as filmmakers focus on selling or getting to know the couple to see if they're a match? And I think you kind of answered that. right?
Yeah, it's all about getting to know the couple. When we were recording this course, I said just because it was wrapped recently, a few days ago, where I was going through and editing it myself, and there was like you have to go through when you record a course, you have to like snip off the front end and the back end, right, to like get rid of the stuff on the edge and put only the middle in there. And the middle one or the beginning of most of the lessons start off with me and Katie doing something like this. Okay, Sam, are we going to finally teach them how to sell their services? Nope, we're not. And then it would be like the next lesson. It's like, okay, is this the lesson where we're actually going to show them how to sell something? Nope, we're not going to show them how to sell anything yet. We're not there yet, because you have so much work to do before you ever sell your services. What you're really trying to do is build rapport and try to understand what their desires are and figure out what's going to motivate and trigger them. And while you're doing that, you're listening. You should, on the discovery call, spend 70%, maybe even more of the time listening to the answers to the questions that you're asking. Because what you're doing when you listen to them is you are making them feel heard and understood and accepted. And ultimately, what we all want is to be accepted. I mean, this is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, human need that we all have, is to feel a need or to feel a sense of belonging, like we belong to a group. And this is hardwired. It's baked into our DNA from thousands of generations, where humans are social creatures. We don't have big claws. We don't have sharp teeth. We can't run super fast. We don't have fur to keep us warm. We have to work together as humans to be able to survive in the cold elements. And so if you don't get invited into the cave, you're not going to last. And so the people who could become accepted by the other people, they went to the cave and they had fire and they collectively hunted, and some people made clothes while some other people were out hunting, and this is that DNA has been passed down from generation to generation to generation, and it is hardwired in our minds. So when you can make somebody feel accepted, like you have heard them and you get them and they are part of your tribe, they feel important and they feel connected. And so what we're really doing is we're trying to form that bond through all sorts of different techniques, so that eventually when the time comes, we then can say, hey, I know you, I get you, you're one of my people, I'm one of yours. Let's talk about how I can help you out now.
So you said something I disagree with, and you said that we're not born with fur, and I've seen Nick with his shirt off.
I'm sorry. I had to. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. No, this is all such good information.
I don't know how to respond to that. Like, yeah. I don't know what to say.
That's the best, John. That's the best, John.
I wasn't born that way.
No, but this stuff is so true, because so many of us literally focus on the kind of drone, the kind of footage, and we're talking about how the sausage is made, and we need to be ready if someone's like, what's in the sausage? Like, we need to be able to know, like, to tell them, oh, this is, and you, like, a lot of people, I think, just think they have to give all this information because of this insecurity of like, well, if I don't tell them this, they might not think I'm a pro, or they might, and that is not the way that I've seen any success in my business. You mentioned your course, and I was able to get in there and kind of poke around, and just already the stuff that I'm able to get from this course, I'm just like, I can't wait for it to be out in the wild, because I think it ultimately does what our vision is here at How to Film Weddings, and that is to elevate the wedding film industry. And this is going to elevate that. Ever since I've been, learning from you, I've elevated what I'm doing. I'm charging more, and I'm able to serve clients better. And so I'm super pumped about the course and everything coming up. You mentioned it a little bit, but I know the course is coming. I'd love for you to kind of talk about it for a second. And then we have a link that we can send people to for a free gift as well. So tell me a little bit about this course, who it's for. Give us the pitch on the course.
Yeah, sure. And I'm with you. I'm in this to help people. I tell my wife and I, we joke, like, we work to make your wins possible. And for us, we actually keep we keep by our desk. You can see this now, a cowbell, right? And we have this here because we ring that bell when our clients close deals. We love celebrating. And because we don't do our own work directly with couples anymore, we celebrate through your successes. And so this course is really the first opportunity that many wedding pros have to get access to the information in a step-by-step way that has been so helpful to wedding professionals, especially over the last year during the pandemic, in the free information I've been providing either on Facebook Lives or podcasts or Clubhouse. And so what we did was we put together two different parts to this course. The first part is the blueprint for the ultimate buying experience. And so we start with the buyer in mind and how buyers make decisions. And I'm going through with Katie, my wife, and we are walking you through step by step exactly how to create the best series of steps for your couples to move through. So that's the first part of it. And that's 6 units altogether. Then the second part of it is how to learn the skills that are going to be most important to guide couples through confidently. So we've shown you what the process is, and now we're going to really focus on the skill set that you've got to have to move people through that sales process. And, there's lots of different things that we could focus on, but we decided to cut the fluff and the things that you can get for free or from elsewhere. And we're really focusing on these core sales skills that are really challenging for videographers and any other wedding pro to pick up without expertise like we have to share. So things like selling to multiple decision makers, selling to different buyer types, going through and creating the ideal sales proposal, like we've talked about, how to prevent and then overcome objections, how to create deal momentum so that even if they don't ghost you, but they're just kind of on the fence and not wanting to move forward, how can you get them to move forward? So lots of deep dives into those topics, discovery calls, and how you can do these core skills that most people aren't so good at, and put all of your energy into there. It's kind of like the Pareto rule, right? Where 80% of the results are going to come from focusing on 20% of the things. And so what we've done is we've distilled my 15 years of sales expertise and hundreds of books and this, applied behavioral economics program. And we basically just baked it into 10 hours of goodness where you can digest it in small bite-sized pieces, step by step.
Yeah, that's incredible. And like I said, I was able to poke around in the course. It wasn't even done yet, so you were still finishing it up. It's that fresh of content, and was able to already start, implementing some of this content. You mentioned to us before we hit record a gift you have for the listeners. I'm going to post a link here, I think that Nick made. But tell us about the link or the gift that you have today.
Yeah, we've got that sales proposal part, which is really probably one of the most complex things to get right. It's really challenging because there's a lot of technical work that's involved in it. It's essentially a long form sales page. And so what Katie, my wife and conversion copywriter have done is gone through, and we have created a little tutorial. It's about 70, 80 minutes long. And it gives away basically our formula for writing sales proposals. This is something that we typically sell for and do if we do done for you is around $1,200, where we actually go through and create the sales proposal. This particular gift is the tutorial that goes along with that. It has about a $300 and $400 value. And it's kind of funny. Katie doesn't like it when I say it, but this is totally true. We actually were not in agreement that it was the right idea to give this away. Katie thought that it was too valuable. She's like, Sam, you cannot give this away. And so I thought that it was really important because I know that y'all are going to go out there and take this information and make more money with it. And so we want to see that happen. And it's also best done on video. And this is something that's really hard to do over a podcast or a Facebook Live. So the compromise was between us that yes, we will share it, but you only get 3 or 4 days access to it. So definitely take advantage of the time while you can. There is a sunset clause. It will turn into a pumpkin after 3 or 4 days that you open it, and you will no longer be able to afford going out to the ball, because this stuff is solid gold. go through. We had a couple of different people tell us they went through last night after we released it. And they said they just binge watched it in a couple of hours, and they took over 12 pages of notes. And we've already had a couple of different people who have emailed saying that they closed deals. There was a photographer, not a videographer, but a photographer in our Facebook group who posted that this month, using these techniques, which we had taught her before, she has closed now over $100,000 in business this month. Not
That's
year,
incredible.
this month.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
So there's all sorts of information out there. Definitely take advantage of it. This is truly good stuff, and we think that this will give you a taste of the kind of material and content that you're going to get in the rest of the course.
Okay. How long will this be available? The free gift?
It'll be available until our enrollment closes. It'll kind of halfway through. We'll be open for the course to be enrolled in for about a week. It opens on March 2nd, and so you'll have this will be available until midway through that. So maybe the 5th or the 6th. So don't sit on it. Don't wait on it. Plus, no joke, every proposal that you send out, you're going to look back on after you've watched this course and you go, how the hell did I even survive in my business until this point? Yeah. So you better get started now.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys out there, but him just saying that using these techniques that Sam is graciously just giving away for free, wants to help our industry, wants to help the wedding industry in general. She booked over $100,000 of business this month alone. I don't know if that doesn't make your ears go, ooh, maybe this guy knows what he's talking about. I mean, if it doesn't make you do that, then I don't know what will. But John has dropped a link in the chat. If you're watching live, if you're listening to this on Monday, it'll still be available for a couple days. And that is at howtofilmweddings.com/blueprint. Howtofilmweddings.com/blueprint will take you to Sam's site where you can download this information in this tutorial. So Sam, it has been a pleasure to hang out with you again. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to hang out with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it. I know that you got a lot of really great response. I got a ton of people who reached out and said that they listened to the podcast and they were super happy that you brought me in. So thanks for part 2 here. And I do hope that this gives everybody a head start on getting going in the upswing. There's a lot of really good things that we can find in the silver linings of those storm clouds that are overhead right now. While the pandemic rages on, our couples are starting to get a lot more sure about what it is that they want to do, whether it's later this year or into next year. And, so many of my clients are feeling a lot of uptick in the inquiries and the pace at which couples are moving. And so now that we can feel that, we want to make sure that we're ready for it. And as we all know, just because we want more inquiries or we want more bookings doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight. And now is the time to get ready for something through education and self-development and practicing, so that in a couple of months, when we're in full swing on the upswing, you're actually ready to go and closing those deals.
Yeah, I know for me, in the first 10 years of my business, I was too prideful to ask for help, to take courses, to do different things. And whenever I really saw our business grow is when I started getting advice from people that had been there before and taking what you said, 10 years of knowledge, 15 years of knowledge, and digesting it and putting it into like a 10 hours or less type of, package for us to consume and be able to take all of that you've gotten over the last decade plus with all your sales and background, and being able to apply that. And so I'm really pumped to take that kind of information, this free gift, all these different things, and apply it to my business. And instead of spending 10 more years trying to learn all those things that you've been doing and learning, I can take that and I can rocket fuel my business, and I know that I schedule and set aside a budget every year for just ongoing education, online courses and things. And the multiplier that I get back from doing that is incredible. And just from the 2 hours that we've had you on our podcast now, it's like I have pages and pages of notes from all the clubhouses that I've tuned in. And, you're just giving out this knowledge. It's just like, I can't even imagine how much, is packed into this course. So that's super great. The link, again, just so everybody knows, is howtofilmweddings.com/blueprint. Before we have you sign off, where can people find you? I know you have a Facebook group as well. Where's a good place to find the one and only Sam Jacobson?
Yeah. I think probably right now Clubhouse is a really good spot to find me. You can find me there, but and it's at Sam Jacobson. But if you do want to get the most value and be able to see and watch, and also to get in with a lot of other wedding pros who, like you, might be interested in getting better and are committed to that and can help each other out, it's our Sell Weddings Like a Pro Facebook group, and it's a very active group. We've got 2,000 to 3,000 people in there right now. We're letting in dozens every day, and it's filled with people who are optimistic about the future. And while you get access to me and to Katie in there, I think it's the optimism that is really important. And you guys know this because you have such a lively and optimistic Facebook group as well. It's nice to be around people who are looking at the glass half full and are motivated and feed off that energy. I think it's a great place for people to spend some time, get some help too.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So Sam, thanks again for taking time to hang out with us today. Again, we want you to head over to howtofilmweddings.com/blueprint. And there for the next couple of days, you can pick up this free tutorial, this training on proposals and that sort of stuff. That's howtofilmweddings.com/blueprint. John, it has been great to hang out with you. Sam, thanks again. For all you listening out there, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, we will see you.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for a better way to deliver your wedding films to your couples? Look no further. Our friends over at WedFlow provide the most flexible video delivery solution on the market. WedFlow is pay per project with no large upfront cost or commitment, and you can cancel anytime. Not only that, WedFlow offers a premium viewing experience for your couples. Accessible on mobile, tablet, desktop, as well as their very own suite of TV apps. Each project comes with 10 years hosting and an experience for your clients that will blow them away. Stop delivering your films the old-fashioned way and give your couples something to rave about. Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/wedflow to check out WedFlow today.